there's three main questions that I ask myself before I bring somebody on. And obviously it'll take time before you get too far into it. But don't hire or work with someone who you wouldn't trust with your money. Like if
Mhm.
you gave them your credit card, would you trust them not to go out and blow the money or just hide or whatever? Would you trust them with your significant other? And would you trust them with your kids?
Oof.
If you want to drive if you want to be successful.
Welcome to VIPAs, the game plan call.
We have Mr. Justin Skolrud joining us this morning. Justin, how are you, my friend? Good morning.
Doing good. Doing
Thank
good.
you for joining us today, man. Long
Thanks for
awaited. I remember the first day that you came into our agency, man. You had a lot to say. You know, you've been locked in ever since. So it's good to see you here now, finally.
Yeah.
So I know you're coming off of a very strong couple of months here. You've been with us since January, if I'm not mistaken, yeah?
Yeah, that's I got released in January. Came in and started just attending uh Zoom meetings and watching how people were doing it while I was studying and getting ready
Yeah.
for my test. And so that way I could try and so I can try and hit the ground running when I did get released. And
Hmm.
so but yeah, it's
Excellent
been a wild
strategy.
ride.
Excellent strategy, man. It's an excellent strategy because, like, see, most people make the common mistake of, waiting to get licensed before they join the Zoom and start learning and things of that
Yeah.
regard. But the most successful people that you typically see are the ones who are attending even during the licensing process. So
Yeah.
kudos to you in that regard for doing that. Now, just to give everyone a little bit of insight, this is all for like new agents. So if you've been with us since in the past 6 months since January. If you could drop a one in the chat, that'd be great so we can sort of get an understanding of the growth that we've been having here. Um, now, based off of the conversation that we had prior to you joining us, I know you kind of expressed that your start in this business, uh, similar to most, was not easy. Yes. Do you want to tell us a little bit of your background and what led you into our industry and our agency specifically?
Yeah. So, dating back to around 2019, I was working at a number of different startups over the last couple of years, from being a fundraising consultant for higher education. In that role, I was consulting like Notre Dame and the University of Florida on how to raise funds better for the universities.
Mhm.
And so it was a fun job. And then the pandemic hit, and so
Mhm.
everything got turned upside down. That's where I ended up meeting Long. We were both doing life insurance telesales, and
Okay.
so um, for the Rookie of the Year competition, there were around 80 agents that, for a first year at that time. He finished one, I finished two, and
Okay.
so still a little bit salty about that, but
Okay.
Long's a good guy, and so actually who brought me in, and then got out of insurance because I wanted to go back to the startup world.
Hmm.
And then worked for a clinic startup and then a financial literacy startup. That then in coming back from Thanksgiving, I was told that they could no longer afford my salary, and so they
Mm.
had to cut me loose.
Wow. Okay.
And so, Happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas of 2024 was, oh, and by the way, because you're a contracted employee, there's no unemployment. Good luck trying to find a job around Christmas time because HR is not worried about hiring new people. They're doing open enrollment, they're closing out the business year, those types of things. And so it was, I arrived here kind of uh, with not a lot going for me at the time. A lot of
Mm.
things had just been the rug pulled out, and then a couple of things going on in the personal life. And so that kind of what brought me here. Called Long. Originally had a conversation with him back in July. Saw some of his numbers posted on Instagram.
Of
Uh,
last year. Of last year, you said.
last July. So about a year ago.
Yeah.
And Long, we had a quick conversation. He's like, I think you'd kill it when you get here. I wasn't ready to make the jump yet. Wasn't in a financial situation. And then when late November, early December came around, It didn't matter what my financial situation was. It was time to go. And so the first couple of months, we're still getting used to things, but that's kind of what landed me here.
Okay, beautiful. Now, the startup world is no easy gig, that's for
No.
sure. Right? So, you know, I would honestly say I wouldn't say that we are a startup. I mean, we've been around for we've been established like 3 years now. So early stages in the business for sure. A lot of room for development within our agency for sure. Um, Now, where are you based out of, if you don't mind me asking? Because like,
Based out of Vancouver, Washington, so just north of
Austin.
Portland. So
Okay,
ironically enough, there's a small collective here in the kind of the greater Portland area.
gotcha.
Like Dylan lives like maybe a mile from my house.
Okay.
I've still never met him in person, but there are a number of us kind of here in the Vancouver, Portland area.
Got you, got you. The only reason I asked that is because I'm in Cali, I'm in San Francisco, so the startup world out here is huge. But no, it's definitely not a easy sort of road to pursue for sure. So you were doing that, and then you and Long were at a different agency, if I'm not mistaken, before this, and you guys were he obviously
Hello. Hey, what up,
outworked
though?
you at that point, or he outperformed you at that point. That got you to want
Yeah,
to
so
transition back into space.
back early stages of the pandemic, when most people were only hiring for remote roles in a sales position,
Hmm.
um, we both joined. We didn't know each other at the time, but we that's where we met each other was doing remote health insurance sales.
Oh, health insurance. Okay,
So
okay.
it was all um, trying to set people up for either just their regular medical plans
Hmm.
because they needed insurance or they lost their coverage through their employer, so now they needed to try and find something on the open market.
There you go.
And then when open enrollment happened, for 6 weeks, you basically defined your year on a 6 week
Hmm.
time frame
Uh-huh.
because most of those health insurance carriers paid out commissions as paid, so they
Hmm.
didn't advance anything. And so your year was pretty much defined by a 6 or 7 week time frame. So one of the
Hmm.
things I didn't like about that industry and specifically was I more or less had to ignore everything else in my life in
Hmm.
order to try and set up the rest of the year. And so
Yeah.
I was working from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Mm.
trying to do what I could
Right.
on days where I didn't have my son. And then the other days I was just trying to work a normal 8 hour shift. But
Mm.
um, I didn't necessarily like the heavy involvement on open enrollment. And
Right.
so that's what had me kind of look back towards the enterprise sales role.
So when you, and this is a big thing for a lot of people too, who transition from going part-time to full-time, or like just being fully bought in general, right?
Yeah.
There's like a whole like assessment, like at least smart folks, like take like a do their due diligence before transitioning here full-time.
Yeah.
So like what kind of and so like what we explain to our agents most of the time, like organization wide, is it like you always want to look at like your overhead expenses first, right? Like let's just say, you were making it takes you $5,000 a month to survive. So what do we need to do in this business for us to replace that income so that way you can get over here full
Yeah.
time and then, start to excel from that point? Is that something that you kind of practiced before transitioning here, or did you just go gung ho and like not really think about anything like that?
I was at a point in life where I just had to go gung ho.
Uh-huh.
The the startup world kind of dropped me.
Hmm.
And at that point, I expenses still had to be paid and those types of things. And so that's what made some of the additional outside of life stresses happen in January, February.
Hmm.
Um, but I trusted Long and I was like, okay, let's do this. It's going to take a little while. So I'm going to have probably some negative months out of the gate. But where I was at, I strongly would not advise someone starting the way I did.
Mm.
But if someone is hungry and disciplined in order to start that way, where you don't really have a whole lot of other options, um, I had no choice but to succeed.
Mm.
And so when uh, I do a lot of reading, but Alex Hormozy has this quote of like, when you've got nothing left to lose, you have nothing left to lose.
Yeah. Yeah.
When there's nowhere else to go, it's going to have to work. and you just take shots.
Yeah.
You just keep shooting. So
Yeah. He also uses example of like, it's in this sort of phase in life when you're taking on like a new challenge or taking on a new risk. It's gonna be you by yourself it's gonna be just you clapping yourself on in the audience, just one person in the audience for a set period of time until, you start to make those strides, then obviously you hear a lot more clapping in the background. A lot more people are attending, in your audience. And then that's a huge piece, man. The beginning is always the toughest. So like
yeah.
what kind of belief about yourself did you have like let go of to like make this career work specifically? Because now I think we could say that, in the past 2 months you've dropped 30 from February to what? You said May and June you dropped 30. From February to April, what were you doing in terms of numbers there?
February, I think for the whole month, I did 3K. So it was rough.
3K. Wow, okay.
Yeah. And then March, I think it jumped to 7 for the month. And then it was, I think, 9 uh March in kind of April is when, and then June and the last 2 months have just been 30K a piece. And so there were some I'll steal a quote from another person, another former mentor of mine. You have to borrow belief because you have to believe, like, so to apply it more directly to this, I had to borrow the confidence and belief that Long and Omar had in my skills. I came from a enterprise sales world where no one bought on a first call. So my biggest challenge out of the gate was don't let people off the phone, continue to battle the objections. Because where I was at, we're selling a product that's $100,000, $50,000 or more, and you have to get committees and buy-in and talk to multiple departments and those types of things. Where this, you got to be able to one call close, and it's a different skill you have to learn, and it's something you can learn. And so I had to borrow the belief that Long and Omar had in me that it will take time. You'll learn it. Just keep shooting, and it'll click. And so, um, yeah. But it takes what it takes. You've got to keep shooting.
No doubt.
Um, there's certain behaviors that have to be here in order for you to succeed.
No doubt.
And if you don't have those, it's self-assessment time at that point.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. That's for sure. It's easy to point fingers at others, but the people who are the most successful within this business are always looking at how they can refine their own approach before they can blame external circumstances. But we're going to talk about those behaviors here momentarily. I just want to sort of focus on that data piece that you just brought up, right? You said you went from 3K to 9K to 30K in a 6 month time or 5 month time period, to be honest.
Yeah.
What happened there? What kind of did you change your lead strategy? Did you start switching up your schedule? What exactly happened there that got you to a point where you made that kind of increase in your production?
So, a couple of things changed. One, the behaviors were there; they were evident. It just
What are those behaviors? Like, walk me.
so I was on Zoom at 7 a.m. every day, 7 to 5. Camera was on. I started coming off mute more, and so the behaviors that are said several times a day: come off mute, go live, open yourself up to criticism, positive criticism, because everyone's here to help other people. Genuinely, I believe that. And so, and then when Long brought me in, he wanted to get me onto the inbound calls. And so I had to kind of prove certain behaviors. And then Omar was willing to take on my spend and put me on there. And so he took a risk in getting me there. But what I'll say is I was, not to toot my own horn, but I was trustworthy of the risk based off the behaviors that I had exhibited. I showed up every day. I was bought in 100%. I was making dials every day. I was doing presentations and I was coming off mute. So the the basics. I
Hmm.
mean, this job is hard, but it's simple.
Hmm.
You can't you can't swim across the ocean on your first day,
Yeah.
but you can learn to start treading water and swimming, and then you get better and better every day. And
Hmm.
so, to steal Samir's quote, take 6 months and you might not have to worry about money ever again, but you have to be bought in 100%
Hmm.
to be able to get there. And
No doubt.
so the behaviors are simple: be active, be busy, make dials when you're not doing a presentation, make dials and be on Zoom and have your come off mute for your presentations so people can hear and give feedback and then go from there.
That's a big thing that you brought up, getting off mute, right? I don't know why, but for some reason it's like every new agent's biggest like Achilles heel, right? Like they just don't do it for some reason. It's like, did you ever find yourself like struggling with doing that, or like, and if so, why do you think it is that most people do stay muted? Because I mean, we are a virtual organization, so unlike an office, in an office, if you can just walk up to someone and hear them present. Whereas in
Yeah.
virtual, you have to be able to like click that button and allow people to, listen to you. Don't really, they have a choice, unfortunately. So like, what kind of advice would you give to like an agent who's like struggling with muting, and why do you think it is that people do stay muted most of the time?
Well, I think most people stay muted because it's human nature to be guarded.
Hmm.
I think people who do not have some level of uh, self-protection get hurt a lot in life, just in general. Like there's certain parts of your life you don't got to share everything about your life. And so I think there's a step of courage that it literally takes. Not to overplay the word, but you've got to be courageous in order to learn. You've got to get uncomfortable, because comfort is the enemy of progress.
Yes.
It just is. And
The devil's
so,
playground.
not the, I mean, I kind of adopted this phrase probably in January: do hard things.
Hmm.
Find hard things to go do.
Hmm.
And so that'll challenge you and get you to be better. Um, and so I just, I mean, starting here in July, I just signed up for like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu classes.
There you go.
Like,
Okay.
find a way
Yeah.
to challenge yourself in a physical area
Yes.
that can help produce some patience, some ability to do some problem solving in complex, challenging situations.
Yes.
Nothing like trying to think while being folded into a pretzel,
Yes.
and
Yes.
try and figure out how do I not make this worse.
Yes.
Um, but in general, over the last couple of years of personal life's kind of put me there anyway. But I would say the biggest challenge is you've got to be able to all your behaviors before today are what got you to today.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want something to change, something has to change.
Mm.
The easiest thing to do is in this safe environment that is here for you is to come off mute,
Mm-hmm.
because you can't get better if no one can hear how to help.
Mm-hmm.
Like asking for help, but then not listening or being open to any sort of advice
Mm-hmm.
on how to become better.
Mm-hmm. Actionable steps. Actionable steps to get that help. Huge. So yeah, I know you have a son too, yeah?
Yeah.
So obviously your son, I can imagine that he probably looks up to you in a different way now that you're trying to pick up fighting, which is good. This is amazing. We always tell the agents too that there's so many similarities between martial arts and this business as a whole. Do you ever find yourself like finding those relations?
Well, I just started. I've only
Mhm.
taken two classes,
Oh,
uh,
okay, okay, okay.
but I've 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 been a big fan of the UFC and just those types of things. But I was like, part of me was like, hey, I need to get back in better shape before I throw myself into the fire. And I was
No
like,
doubt.
well, I didn't take that approach when I joined insurance again. I didn't
Yeah.
like wait for the situation to be right,
Yes,
because
yes,
I
yes,
think that's the way that we try and play it safe, wait for the situation to be right
yeah,
for I want to become polished before I come off mute. Well, you
yes,
can't get polished until you come off mute. You're
yes,
looking at it in the wrong order.
yeah,
And so, because everyone, whenever you get to a pool, none of us started knowing how to swim.
At all. At all.
So we all had to risk something in order to get out there and get uncomfortable and push ourselves a little bit. So
Yeah, yeah. And some of us unfortunately didn't have the option to even get to swim. We just got thrown in the deep end of the ocean so
yeah,
that way, we could teach others. We had to fight to swim so that way we could teach other people, the step-by-step processes it would take for them to be able to get to swim instead of having to face those sort of harsh circumstances that, some of us had to actually face when getting into this industry. Um, it's you bring up a really good point in terms of like people, unfortunately, big mistake that a lot of folks make is like, and it's tough, right? Like you have to, it's one thing to be able to tell someone like, you have to take that risk, but like waiting for the perfect, there's never going to be a perfect circumstance.
yeah,
Even when you're making, all the, you're producing all the business in the world, there's never going to be a perfect circumstance. You're never going to have the perfect spend. You're never going to have the perfect, close ratio. You're never going to have the perfect date. Like it's never going to be perfect, right? But that's just business, right? Business as a whole is just it's an exploitative. It'll exploit the truth in who you are and how you correct yourself. Everyone wants to make like X amount of income, right? Everyone wants to make 100,000 a month. Everyone wants to make, but it's like you don't. First of all, most people don't know how to spend that kind of money. Second of all, once they hit their certain number on the way there, they get comfortable. It's tough, right? So like just do the part. Just do your part. Just do enough to be able to make sure that your son is taken care of, make sure the home is taken care of, make sure you're setting yourself up for success, in the future and down the line. Very important things to be able to adopt. And you've done what it sounds like based off what I'm hearing you say is that you did all the mental work on the way here. While you're doing it, you're doing it with intent. You're moving with intent, understanding what is happening in this business on a day-to-day basis and having those sort of tough conversations with your upline to be able to help, keep this in check. Because if this is in check and if what at home is not in check, then the business is never going to work, as we already know, right? So back to the lead strategy. So you were doing MP, or are you on what leads are you calling now? Still the same MP, or are you calling
so
something else?
I'm on call X taking inbounds,
Beautiful,
and I do that from 7 to noon.
beautiful.
And then I still have MP calls um, in midway through May. I hired a VA that
Okay,
can start doing some manage my CRM, start doing some outbound dialing while I'm on call X, so that when I get off call X, there's 2 or 3 appointments already lined up for the
beautiful,
rest of the day that keep me busy, so that my
beautiful.
time can be spent more on sales. Now,
Yes,
obviously, I didn't get there from day one,
exactly. There you go. Okay.
and I think understanding that there's going to be a process,
Mm-hmm.
um, but it's been a tremendous value add for me
Mm-hmm.
that I'm not panicking about trying to operate my CRM while taking inbounds, because that just
Yes.
sounds like a nightmare. And that's what I was doing for the first 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It split my focus,
Yeah.
and I didn't do well the first 2 weeks on call X. Um, and then took a week off and did just pendings, wrapped
Mm-hmm.
those up, got those closed out, and then hopped back on full time.
There you go.
And so being able to keep your focus on the thing right in front of you is probably the most paramount. So
Mm-hmm.
if you get to a point where a VA makes sense, obviously that's something you got to think about for your own business.
Mm-hmm.
But I was at a point where I had to believe it would work,
Mm-hmm.
because otherwise I was just wasting money on the aged mortgage leads that I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Because as soon as I'd come off, most of those were responded to, or I wasn't getting quick responses back to the text messages, wasn't being able to do the high volume of dials on those that I had normally done because of call X. And so
Mm-hmm.
just finding ways to get it to work. So,
Such a fast way of getting you to a point where you've been able to like start integrating the first few steps of scale within your
yeah,
own personal book of business. Because it don't sound like you have a team or anything, but like you are scaling your own book of business to the point
yeah,
where all you're doing is getting on sits. That's the beauty of this business, man. I swear, like we were talking about this the other day. It's like when you're first coming in, the first step is like, yes, you have to do a lot of grunt work. Everyone has got to gone through it. HD went through it. Samir went through it. Everybody, I mean, they were knocking doors, for God's sakes. America knocking doors. Like, it's not easy in the beginning. But as you continue to scale, as you continue, and this is the easiest time in history that insurance has ever been. Insurance went telesales 3 years ago. It is
Yeah.
absolutely too easy to be successful in this business. But the first step, and there's no common uncommon denominator, is that you have to be able to dial. You have to do it for a long period of time. You have to be able to close. You have to be able to get set benchmarks in your data to be able to understand what are your lead costs, right? Are you hitting those baseline metrics of, Samir always talks about 5x on your return on ad spend. And then once you stacked up the capital and you have the access to capital, then you free up the time to be able to just get a VA, and all you're doing all day is hopping on sits and just closing deals all day. You become a professional closer instead of having to do every piece within your business. Instead of being the person who's handling your managing your finances, and then managing your CRM, and then managing your calls and everything else, and managing your underwriting, right? It's great to be able to do all that. In the beginning, you have to do everything until you sort of get to a position like you're in right now, where you're just focusing on the income producing activity of just selling. And the crazy thing about it is it only took you like 5, 6 months.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to talk about that too, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Because it's a big thing that a lot of people are probably, looking into to free up their time, right? Because you have a 7 to 5, and then after 5 p.m., I'm sure that go train jujitsu, spend time with your son, and whatever else, you like to do. But so how much, if you don't mind me asking, how much are you currently paying for your VA right now?
800 a month.
Sorry, my bad, man. I'm way under the weather right now, but
It's
yeah,
fine.
I was forced to like thug this out, so. I'm gonna do it. But how much are you currently like paying your VA right now, on a monthly basis?
800 a month.
300 a
And
month. Okay.
then I've built in like bonuses for when we get a sale off of her sits, she gets bonuses from there, and
Beautiful.
additional funds. So her
Beautiful. Beautiful.
base
Okay.
goal is I took more or less an SDR position or a sales development representative position or appointment setter uh,
Beautiful.
metric from kind of the startup world.
Okay. Okay.
And so the idea is I've in numerous startups that I've worked at, sales agents are significantly more profitable when
Yeah.
they do not have to set their own appointments. So but not every company has the money to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so they want agents or they want sales reps that appointment set and close. And so once you're at a point where you can get an appointment setter and then all you're doing is closing, think about the conversations you're no longer having. You're no
Hmm.
longer dealing with the person who's like, I never filled out that form or is cussing you out because you called it an inopportune time. You take some of those frustrations off the plate for you, and
Hmm.
then you're just dealing with individuals who are ready to show up and talk business, or they're you're lined up to sell at that point.
Yeah.
And so, however you can begin to replicate yourself, um, begins to change your business drastically.
No doubt. No, I can imagine for sure. So is this person, are they domestic or are they overseas?
International, international.
International. Okay. And
Is that
so
she be on here? I won't out her because she doesn't
oh,
like. Uh, she gets a little shy, which is perfectly understandable. And
so
so, but she's been a great addition to my team. So,
there you go. She definitely heard that for sure. It's important to express appreciation as well. So now, yeah, I'm sure you probably had to put a lot of time into training this person as well, no?
yeah,
Or
I've had to set out some time for trainings and then ongoing trainings. So,
okay,
more or less, the first 6 weeks was her focusing on mortgage protection leads.
okay,
But now going to look at having her start calling some more high intent leads, maybe some
mhm,
Hall of Fames, that
yeah,
type of stuff. And so it's a little bit of a different change to the script,
okay,
but then also adding some back office work.
okay.
Uh, Now that I don't have to wait on hold with Americo for an hour or with
Yes.
American Amicable for 45
Oh
minutes.
man.
Um,
Yeah.
but I was at a point where, like, you hire on somebody, there's a certain point where they even have to prove themselves before I like start giving them parts of my social or all my
Yes.
contract writing numbers and those types of things. So, anytime you bring anybody on, whether it's a new agent or not, um, they have to prove themselves trustworthy.
Yeah.
So, the biggest thing is, are you trustworthy?
Yeah. No doubt. And trust is built over time.
Yeah.
That's
And,
for sure.
and it is rented
Yeah, that's for
because
sure.
you can lose it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not
And
something you own long term. You could make a couple of mistakes or short-sighted things, and then that's gone.
that's for sure. That's for sure. Anything in this
Yeah.
business, relationships, and whatever it may be. That's the bare truth. Actually, I read this. I don't know who said this. I think it was Kevin O'Leary. He's like the best way to see if you can trust someone is go. Oh, Patrick, but David said this. The
Yeah.
best way to know if you can trust someone is go through hell with them first, and then see how they move.
Yeah.
He was kind of explaining how he assesses his partnerships before partnering with someone in business.
Yeah.
So like he explained how like he takes his potential partners on like to travel, right? He'll have them bring their wives, their kids, and watch how like they treat them and things of that regard. So super important. Trust is everything. Um, so okay, so you train her on how to do your underwriting, you train her on how to set your appointments, you train her on how to manage your CRM. That's huge, man. That's huge. And so all you're doing is just hopping on sits. I mean that's an amazing sort of addition to being able to get to the position where you're in right now. Now, did you how much so I'm gonna ask you a little more intricate questions in terms of like
Yeah.
income wise. So how much did you have to, produce to be able to you make sure that your overhead costs are taken care of?
I have
For business and personal. You can answer that, you don't have to answer that if you
yeah.
don't want.
So the easy answer is I need to pocket around $8,000 to $9,000 a month
Okay.
to cover my expenses.
There you go. Okay. Beautiful. And
Um,
that's business and personal.
that's business and personal. And
Beautiful.
so it's just um long story short, I got divorced and attorneys are not cheap. So
Absolutely not. Yeah.
it's one of those things. If I could tell anybody one thing, um uh who you pick as a partner
Yeah.
will determine more about your future and the next 10 to 20 years
Yeah.
than who you are.
That's for sure.
That's
That's
the support system, that type of stuff. And so, um, not to get into all the personal stuff,
no,
uh,
it's the truth
but
though. You hit it right now.
divorce happens,
Yeah.
and it pandemic was not kind to most of us or all of us really. Um, but it's been an uphill battle on some of those fronts.
Hmm.
But yeah, around $8,000 or $9,000 a month is what I had to clear, which sounds insane,
Yeah.
but I mean, it is what it is.
It is
So
what it is, man. And it pushes you to want to make sure that you actually have to hit those bit. And luckily you can do it from the comfort of your home.
yeah,
Luckily you can do it from just picking up the phone and just talking to someone, you
yeah.
know?
I had been remote since 2018
Oh
in
wow.
so I'm old school remote employee. And so at the startup in Seattle, earned the right to work remote as the number one rep
Mhm.
there for 2 years in a row, and then was been remote since late 2018. Um, but yeah,
There you go. There you go. And you being a remote as long as you have been, I can imagine you're
yeah,
definitely not wearing pants underneath that. You're definitely wearing shorts, if I'm not mistaken. You're definitely wearing a polo and some shorts. Okay, it makes the two
yeah.
of us.
Polo and shorts. That's
No.
basically what we do.
All
So
good. All good. No problem. So okay, this is good stuff because like this is what I love, man. I love the fact that you're tracking your data, you're on top of your numbers, you know your numbers, right? Because this is the first step. A lot of people make a killing, but then they forget like, and they go and spend the money and they forget like what their long-term goals are. How do you build this thing sustainably, like, in a sustainable fashion, right? But you have a good understanding of your benchmarks and a even good understanding of like what your overhead costs are and what it's going to take for you to sustain here long term. Let's talk about a little bit more KPIs. Do you track your KPIs at all right now?
I'm gonna start. There's there's so many efficiency things
Hmm.
that I feel I don't do a good enough job on, and so finding something that tracks that a little bit better. I unfortunately the key track that I do is I've got my whole list of AP that I write, making sure that it stays on the books. I don't have a lot of chargebacks or anything like that, and so most of the business that I write stays on the books. I
There you
mean,
go.
only been here 6, 7 months, but I don't get a lot of like either someone's going to call and cancel the next day or the next day or 2 days later before the first payment comes out, or it
Right.
stays on the books, and that's
Okay.
98% of what I've written. And so
Beautiful.
mostly the only thing that I tracked was I knew I needed to write 25 to 30 AP,
Mhm.
and then ran the numbers on splits and advance versus all that kind of stuff in order to get to where I would be at $8,000 to $9,000 a month. So I
Mhm.
knew 30K was the number I had to start writing in order to start covering my bills on a monthly basis.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So you talked about the fact that you have obviously you understanding of your overhead, you had to factor in the splits. Um, what, see, you obviously been on Collex too.
Yeah.
At what point would you say like you realize you've been doing this for almost what 30K for the past 2 months now? What's the plan for you like in the future? Like, are you planning on building a team? Are you planning on just continuing to produce? What is it? What does the future look like for Mr. Skolrud as he continues to have an understanding and gain a pulse of his
Yeah.
current business right now?
So I am actively looking to add to my team. And
Okay.
so I've got one who is committed,
Hmm.
but he had already signed up for a door knocking job between his
Oh.
junior and senior in college. So he's
Oh.
in Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Maryland in the hot, humid heat door knocking and
Mm-hmm.
will come back in August. He's already testing. I've got 3 other people that are um, studying to take their test.
Mm-hmm.
One in Florida, one in Idaho. One in Idaho I met because I helped her mom with her life insurance policy,
Beautiful.
and
Beautiful.
then had a conversation with the daughter because she had to go to her daughter's drive to her daughter's house to do the signature process because she didn't
Mm-hmm.
have an email.
Mm-hmm.
And then the daughter started asking questions because her
There you
daughter
go.
um, does property and casualty insurance
Okay.
and was looking to add to her business. And so she's already met with Jessica and has the study materials, and should probably take her test in the next week or two. But my goal is to start adding agents quickly.
Beautiful.
I've now proven that it works. Not that
Mhm.
I doubted it before, but sometimes you got to borrow belief.
Of course, like you
So,
said.
so now it's about adding people as quickly as possible, but not too fast because I
Hmm.
don't want to bring somebody on and then not um, be able to support them.
There
And
you
so
go.
that's where my idea is. I mean, if I were to put a key metric at the beginning of the year, when everyone kind of put their goals down for the year, kind of based off that PBD video,
Mhm.
my goal was to have 4 agents by writing by the end of the year.
Beautiful.
So I've got a couple in the hopper, but I could beat that
Yeah.
because we're now just a little over halfway through the year,
Hmm.
and I've got a couple in the hopper. But the goal is we got to get them writing and get them up off the ground.
No
And
doubt.
so um, I don't want to take on more than like 2 or 3 at a time.
Hmm.
And the goal is to find the first couple is to find people that have builder mentality
Hmm.
that then I can train them to do what I'm doing,
Hmm.
and then they start replicating that, and then
That's
it just starts going down and expanding faster. So,
beautiful.
um, the first couple of hires have to be strategic
Yes.
because those, I mean, quite honestly,
Yeah.
those are going to be the people that you're going to spend the most time with.
Oh,
So,
yes.
um, because we're on recording, we're going to keep it clean. Don't hire a jerk you don't want to work with.
Yes. Yes.
Don't hire an arrogant individual who thinks they know what they're doing. Hire someone with a couple of key mindsets, kind of like what Omar highlighted. They have to be coachable, they have to be driven, and they got to be able to stay positive,
Mhm.
regardless of the other noise of life and business.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you have to be the one that's the positive encourager for them. that
Yeah.
flips them back to the positive.
Hmm.
But then you also have to prove yourself to be trustworthy for them to open up and talk about what's really going on.
That's the truth.
Because anyone who has low numbers, who's here every day and is on video, off mute, doing presentations, but is struggling, something else is going on, probably on the personal side.
Yeah.
And are you trustworthy as a leader for
Yeah.
them to be able to come to you and just explain what's going on? Not that
Yeah.
they're asking for advice and not that you have to give them advice,
Hmm.
but can you be there as a support to say, hey, we got you working, you're doing stuff, you're making it happen. It's just going to take some time type things. So
Hmm. No doubt. That see, this is the sign of a great leader in the making, man. You're the only person in my entire. I've only been in the industry for like 2 years, but like you're the first person who I've heard say this exact same thing, which is like the first few people that you bring into your organization are the most important
yeah,
people. And you work in corporate, that's probably how you learned it. You working in a startup
yeah,
space for sure. You probably adopted that from being in the startup space because it doesn't like you have to have an understanding of business to even make a statement like that to understand that.
yeah.
But I
Well,
couldn't agree more,
I've
man.
worked for some pretty rough bosses
Yes,
that lacked some self-awareness,
yes,
that claimed not to be micromanagers, and then would email you 3 or 4 times a day,
yes,
or would automatically drop into your Zooms, and you're like, I'm in the middle of a presentation. What are we doing?
yeah,
And
yeah,
so, um, now that you own the business, you get to start making some of those choices. So some of those irritations you may have had from the corporate world or from previous employment opportunities,
yeah.
learn from that.
Hmm.
I have a life motto I learned from my grandfather, always be learning. There is no
Hmm.
setback in life that doesn't add value to your life,
Hmm.
even if it's by subtraction, if you learn from it.
Hmm.
So take that learning of, oh, I don't want to work with that type of a person who treats other people like that because they're having a bad day. Okay,
Hmm.
then don't hire an agent like that.
Hmm. No doubt.
And that's the freedom of what we get to do. We get
Yeah.
a say, and maybe you bring on an agent that you don't vibe with or whatever, but they'll vibe with somebody else. That's what I love about having 100 to 200 people on Zoom every day.
Mhm.
Go find a room.
Yeah.
Um, I typically hop in a room with Aaron, Omar, Vince, Jason, and David and Long. But I'm going to challenge myself to do a better job of hopping into other rooms with other people because that expands me more. That helps me learn a little bit more. Like Rachel's been crushing it. Hop in a room, listen to Rachel close because she's got a more personable approach than I do.
Hmm.
I build rapport well, but sometimes I'm a little too business,
Hmm. Hmm.
um, and not as personal. And that's an area of my business that I feel I can find a way to build rapport a little bit better.
Hmm.
And so, um, find ways to kind of fine tune and hone your approach.
No
And if you
doubt.
have a humble mindset to keep improving, um, then you won't get relaxed and you won't get stagnant and you won't stop improving. So,
No doubt. No doubt. You talked about the support piece too. If you hire incorrectly, being able to support someone who doesn't have the sort of baseline sort of
yeah,
character to be supported, that's tough, man. It's
yeah,
tough. Like you have to have that tough conversation. In interviewing anybody that comes into your business, right? Like taking the time, like it's not a recruiting game. Like in 2025, like you cannot recruit. You can try and recruit people for sure, but there's going to be operational flaws for sure. That
yeah,
person at some point, if you don't get, you're not going to be able. You don't even know what they're in this business for. How are you going to be able to support them? How are you going to be able to put together a roadmap to ensure that they actually do see the success that they want to see within this business? It's a huge piece, man. Because most people and people who want to start building, it's like, oh yeah, I want to collect an override or I want to get paid. I mean, it's like, and even when you do that, how are you using that to be able to contribute back to the agents or the agency as a whole, right? It's huge, man. Support is everything. Um,
there's
Now,
three main questions that I ask myself before I bring somebody on. And obviously it'll take time before you get too far into it. But don't hire or work with someone who you wouldn't trust with your money. Like if you gave them your credit card, would you trust them not to go out and blow the money or just hide or whatever? Would you trust them with your significant other? And would you trust them with your kids?
Oof.
If you can trust them with all three, you found a character person,
There you
and
go.
you can teach the rest. You can teach them how to call. I can take someone who hates cold calling and teach them if they're willing to learn and they've got a little bit of a drive, but you can't teach character. You can't.
Can't. You cannot. Oh my God, that is the
You
truth.
can't
You
teach
really
character.
cannot.
They either are or they aren't. And sometimes in my 20s, not that I was a bad character person, but I was lazy. I was very smart throughout high school. I hated doing homework. Found out later I had ADHD, so I would pick up information real quickly, but I had no desire to sit and read a book for long hours.
Yeah.
And so I was lazy, but I began to become accountable. But the character was always there. Like I'm not I'm not going to sell an old lady a policy that gets me a commission if it puts them in a situation where they're not in a 100% undeniably better situation.
Yeah.
It's not worth it to me. It's
Yeah.
playing the long game because the long game always works.
Yeah.
Once you start making some short-sighted decisions, you can destroy all the progress you've made.
Yeah. And that's the going back to that example you just made, it probably attributes to why your retention is in such good shape as it is right now, right? Because you're doing what's in the client's best interest. I mean, I would love to like pick your brain more and like figure out what kind of assessments you go through to really attest to those three, trust benchmarks that you just stated. But I think we're kind of strapped for time. I kind of want to open up for questions if that's okay.
Yeah,
Ladies and gentlemen, Justin Skolrud, I appreciate you so much for your time today, man. This is really gave me and I think everyone else a little bit of insight as to, what you're going to be doing here within our organization, man. And big things coming for you for sure, man.
yeah.
I appreciate it, really.